it's Lynn Brown. I'm a speaker, trainer, and coach, and a partner with the Empowered Living community. And I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I spent the first half of my life people pleasing. And then in my spare time, when I wasn't pleasing people, I was actually trapped by the opinions of other people. I mean, it was more like living in a mental prison. It was horrible. And then one day I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, but I just was like, enough is enough. And I took a step in the direction of my dreams. It was like the first time that I can remember really betting on myself. And it's funny because I've seen this quote, Wayne Dyer, when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. And honestly, y'all, it was really the truth. And things began to change in my life. And so being a part of a community of people who are focused on adding value to other people and wanting to grow and become the best versions of themselves has truly changed every aspect of my life. I mean, it's changed the direction of my life. It's changed everything. And I have been just honored, privileged to be around some of the most amazing people that I've ever met. One you're going to meet today. So I want to go ahead and turn our podcast over today to my friend Monica, and she's going to just share with you her heart and her, just kind of what's going on in her life, and you're going to love her. So Monica, thank you so much for being on the Gritty Women podcast today. We're so happy to have you.
Yes, thank you, Lynn, for inviting me. I am really excited about your podcast. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We're super excited to be here. And I know that we all across the world, as Paul says, we've been given this global pop quiz. And so I always like to find out, what are you learning? What have you learned in the last 60 days? What's happening with you?
Oh, that's a good question. And because I'm learning so much. But the main thing that I can really say that I've been really tuned into is the brain and how the brain actually ties into our mental wellness and our health and I'll say our mental stability. I grew up depressed and with suicidal thoughts, and that lasted for 40 years up until about 2 years ago. And I can say that I am now depression free. And I no longer have suicidal thoughts. But what I found going through my journey over the last 10 years was it started me asking God for help because I knew it was something that I would not be able to handle on my own. And then when I look back over my journey and my healing really started taking place about 2 or 3 years ago. And when I look at some of the things that I was doing, it was really health related, using essential oils, getting rid of toxic things in my environment, which included a toxic relationship. And I also started changing the vitamins that I'm taking. So then I started studying Dr. Amen and found out how, the vitamins that we're taking, especially like the omega-3 fatty fish oils, are really important to our health. So then I started really diving into his certification and learning really that when we don't have the blood flowing in the right areas of the brain, that it can actually cause us the mental distress and things. And when I'm looking back over my journey, that was one of the things that I have started changing, was taking the omega-3 fish oil vitamins. So it's really been a really interesting journey learning about, how the brain ties into our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts and things.
Wow. I think that's such vital information right now, because I have so many people asking me about anxiety and how to get from where they are to where they want to be. And I've too suffered through some of the anxiety in my life, and it was through diet, exercise, supplements, and God, that I was able to break through from that. So I'm so thankful that you have done that. Now, for our viewers today that are listening, that might not, be connected with larger communities, what would be just a great next step for them? Just something simple that they could do. I know you already mentioned the, omega-3s, essential oils. What is something that they could do in their life just to begin that process, like you took that first step?
Yeah. So really, one of the first things that I actually teach my own clients is to journal. And because when you journal, whatever is going on in your mind, you actually release it and you get it out. For me, what I've learned, and actually I started journaling around 1998, is when I have thoughts that keep going and I'm getting really down, if I go to write them down, then I'm releasing them and I can move on with whatever it is that I'm trying to do. So my first thing and advice would be is to get that journal. And even if you don't have like a regular journal that you're writing in, sometimes I find myself a napkin, if I have a napkin closest to me, just to do that brain dump and get it out and release those negative thoughts that's going on, it really helps. So if I could, would say anything, the first step would be to releasing those thoughts and those emotions by writing them out.
Mhm. That is so powerful. And we've heard, I know in our community, just the importance of that, and that most people, I think only like 3% of the population ever even writes down their dreams and goals. So
Hmm.
I'm sure if it's something of a more emotional, just, one of those types of experiences and situations, they probably really don't want to take the time to write it out. But I totally agree with you. And I think I believe that just 4 years ago, when I began to write gratitude, that was the beginning of my whole life change. All of the things that have come into my life since then came from me beginning to write that down. And so I think there's something powerful about the written word. It's different than technology. It's different than typing it on a computer or just thinking about it. The other day I was talking to somebody about this and they're like, oh, I go through it in my mind. I'm like, get you a pencil with just, a real eraser on it or a pen and really just put it to the paper. And so I love that. And I love the brain dump idea because there's so much going on in our brains all the time.
Hmm.
So we just need to brain dump. I love it. Wow. Um, Thinking back, I know people always want to know, like, what was the best advice you've ever learned? So I always like to ask my guests that, what is the greatest either lesson you've learned or the greatest advice that you were ever given?
Actually, and I have many things that I can remember, but right now, what's really sticking out is my mother. What she taught me at a very young age was if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it. So I grew up really careful with the things that I spoke to other people. And I'm really a words person, so sometimes I would find myself getting agitated with the way that people would speak to each other. So really, I would say that if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. And that's even including the things that we say to ourselves, which was one of the another step in this journey of healing, which is watching what we're speaking to ourselves and believing. So that would be really the biggest thing that I've carried with me really all of my life was, the words that we're using and speaking, and then and applying that to your life as well.
Hmm. And I think that's such a good point because so often we just think about the words that we say or the words that other people say to us, and a lot of times when I'm coaching or working with organizations, whatever, they'll be like, it's the competitor or it's what the news has said or it's what somebody else has said or what somebody thinks. And honestly, I think our biggest enemy is up here between this
Mhm.
ear and this ear. And it's not so much out there what they're thinking because they don't really think much about us at all, but it's more about what we think. And so yes, even being careful about what comes out of our mouth, and you're right. what goes on, what we allow to go on in our brains. It's just it's a big piece of that brain health that you were talking about, I believe.
Yes, it is.
You know, I wish there was a vitamin, that we could give everybody for that. But that just takes some work.
And you have to really want to make a difference and change, and you really have to want to, right, use caring words is what I say, and want to be an encourager. But that takes willpower.
It
It's
really
not something
does.
that it's not going to just happen overnight, unless you're really intentional and being aware of the things that we're saying and speaking. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so easy. It's a slippery slope, and um, everybody wants world peace and everybody wants to be a world changer, but not so many people lining up with their hands raised going, I want to change. Let me change Lynn Brown, you know, but that little song that, we sang as kids, Let There Be Peace on Earth, it also said, and let it begin with me.
Hmm.
And I think that's where it has to happen, and we have to, just like you're saying, we have to become the best versions of ourselves with our health, with
Yeah.
our thought life, our mindset, and our intentional actions. I mean, we have to be so focused. We have to be laser focused. We cannot afford to just live a life flying by the seat of our pants. I did that for the first half, and it's not. I don't recommend it.
Right. And especially when a lot of times we look for change, somebody else to change. We don't like the way they are, and we don't like the way that they're speaking and the things that they're saying. But really, the change is within us, because what I found is that as I change, the people around me change.
Mhm.
Their attitudes start changing. So if they did have anything bad to say, they don't say bad things around me, because that's not the energy that I bring into the circle. So really, I believe that when we change and focus on ourselves, we don't have time to focus on everybody else or what anybody else is doing. And then it actually helps those around us. So
That's
yeah, we
exactly
have to look,
right.
we have to look at ourselves first. Yep.
Yeah, we do. I think we do. I think our competition is in the mirror. I think so much of our beliefs, our thought life is what we're seeing back. Whether we're saying it or believing it in our minds. But um, until we become aware of that, nothing will change. I mean, we'll just be beating ourselves. Because I've heard people say, I get to this certain place, I start this program, or I start this resolution, or I start this, journaling, or I start this whatever, and I get to a certain place and I quit. And I think that's a program that we're just programmed. A lot of people are programmed to believe that, and until that is, changed, nothing. We will continue to get the same results.
Yep.
So, that's why I'm so passionate about this movement and, this gritty women mindset, because you have to be gritty. You have to be able to know you're going to fall on your butt, and you're going to have to get back up. You have to grit back up, we say. You fall
Mhm.
down 7 times, you grit back up. I mean, it's not for wimps. It's just not. It's hard. It's uphill. It's hard. And a lot of it is not going to be fun. I was just on a training earlier today, and one of the questions was, what happens when you're not motivated? Like, most days, motivation is, I don't even really use that much in my vocabulary. I mean, you're not going to feel like doing it every day,
Mhm.
but it has to be so, you know, bound up by who you are and your values. Um, and so, I chose you to be on the show because I look at you and what you've accomplished and what you've been through. I'm like, that's a gritty woman right there. And so, in our gritty world, the G in gritty is for gratitude. R is for resilience. I is for inspiration. The two T's in gritty are to think tough, because there was such a time in my life I didn't think tough. I just played not to lose. And that's some pitiful living right there. And so, and then the why is, you do you. So in the word gritty, which part of that just resonates with you?
Actually, the part is gratitude, because no matter what's going on, whether it's good or bad, I'm always thankful to God. Thankful because I'm where I am, and thankful because I've gotten to this point. So it's really living in that world of gratitude for me, and always remembering that I can never do anything by myself, and putting God first and being thankful that I do have his word to stand on. That actually keeps me going. So really, when I think of gritty, right, it's really living in gratitude.
Mhm. And I'm so glad to hear you say that. And it's so true. I think sometimes people hear that, they see gratitude journals, or they hear, I pound it all the time everywhere I go. I'm like, have you ever written it down? They're like, well, I say it, I'm like, have you ever written it down? Have you written down 25 things a day, or 5 things a day, or 7 things a day? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, just try it. And then every now and then I'll hear back, I've done it for 30 days, and it's really changed, my whole outlook. And so I am a firm believer. I'll never forget when I read Brene Brown's Daring Greatly book, and she was talking about shame and guilt, and I was just like reading my life just on the pages there. And she said, the one thing that will annihilate trauma, shame, and guilt is the practice of gratitude. And thankfully, I'd had a friend 4 years ago that just challenged me to do it. And I've been doing it ever since. I have tons and tons of books, journals filled with it. But it's so powerful. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And now at this time, when we hear so much of the negative and just the divisive, attitudes of men and women, and we have these issues with racism, and we have these issues with opinions about whatever, from ice cream to COVID. I mean, it doesn't matter. As we close, what would you encourage our viewers to lean into at this time?
I would really say leaning into your own feelings and not letting the world dictate how you're going to feel and what you're going to do, because the world is ever changing, but God is not. And he has so many promises that for us, that if we consider to stand on his word, then it doesn't matter what's going on the outside, because we're leaning and looking towards him, and we're going to get everything that there is for us to have in the world, no matter what the conditions and circumstances are.
Wow. That's awesome. And what a great note to end on. And I just thank you again for just giving us your time today. I know you are, a busy woman doing big things in this world. And thank you for just speaking into our global movement of gritty women. And I just wish you the best. And real quick, before we close, can you tell the viewers, how they can reach out to you? Do you have a website, a book, or whatever? Just tell us, talk to us.
Yeah. So you can find me at monicammadden.com. Again, that's monicammadden.com, and that's my website. And then it'll have a page where you can go to contact me as well.
All right. Well, that is so awesome. And thanks again. We look forward to seeing you again. You have to join us later on for another show. And until then, just remember, gritty is the new pretty. And when we fall down, we're going to grit back up. So let's just go make the world gritty. So thank you so much, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for having me.